Hello, friends. We are building today. We're building some cool stuff, and I want to show you. I want to show you what's going on. So let me close some tabs here so I can get focused with you, be in the room with you, and make sure that I am not distracted, as we all are in this distracting world. Okay. So couple of tabs, and we're good. Okay. So today, what are we working on, boys and girls? What are we working on? Let me show you my screen and we can get things going here. So, what we are working on today is this platform for getting betting odds. Okay. This is for a person who runs a small community where they do what's called arbitrage and a couple other betting strategies to basically get promotional things like the promotions that you see on these DraftKings and sports books, where it's like sign up today, get $100, or for a friend, get $50, stuff like that. Those promotions, they're getting those and they're making money off of that. Okay, so it's not exactly making money off of the bets themselves, like the actual sports, the games, or anything like that. It's making money off of those promotions. Okay, so it's a bit of a different strategy if you're going to want to, learn about baseball teams and UFC fights and stuff like that. This is not going to be the group for you. This is the group about basically gamifying the promotional aspect of things. And there's a whole science to it. I'm not entirely sure of every little detail, but I found out enough through some documentation that they sent me how to build this platform here. So this platform, hold on. Yeah, yeah. So this platform has been built out for that specific use. And you can see a lot of things that are familiar here if you know anything about sports. And hold on, I'm going to sneeze again. Every time I stream, I have to sneeze. It's very odd. Something about being exposed to you people or something like that. Ah, okay, I'm good. So this platform, I built it myself. The design, the layout, the colors, the kind of specific details here about where the date is, where these odds are, and so on and so forth. I built it out myself, and I specifically told this client that they should stay off of something like a softer or like a drag and drop tool because it was ugly and it was not going to be capable of having one this much information as far as like all these odds, all these filters, and then also two, these different calculations, like in this case this arbitrage calculator, in this case a promotion calculator, and rollover deposits tracking, so on and so forth. So I kind of went on a limb telling them that they should do custom code, but it doesn't feel like a limb anymore. Okay. Once you get good at these tools, once you've built a few things with these tools, you realize that it's actually better for you to just build things custom, ground up, instead of fighting these technologies like a drag and drop builder. So if you're in this space and you're learning about vibe coding tools and you're just like growing your confidence, I would urge you to build a couple of side projects if you need to, or just, very low priced early stage projects for companies so you can get enough reps to be able to make that recommendation. Because one of the things that I've messed up on has been that, like the projects that I've messed up on have been always because of that, from not going and basically being, convicted enough in the fact that we should build from a certain foundation rather than another. Right. And these are projects that I had people refer to me, or kind of like I parsed out with a small partnership or a temporary partnership, and they wanted or they suggested a certain platform. And I was thinking this would probably be better in code, but I just kind of let them have it because it wasn't technically my client. But those have been the ones that have always messed up. Okay. So I would urge you, right? Always trust your abilities once you've developed your abilities. So if you need to develop your abilities first, do that. But once you develop them, trust them. And with vibe coding and things like this, I think that it's quite simple to get those abilities if you are just honest with yourself about what you need to learn, if you put in the hours and the reps so that you can learn it, and then you move into actually putting some stuff out there live, okay? Whether it's yours and you're doing it, the goal is to put some stuff out there live, whether it's yours and you're doing like a consumer facing project where you have like a SaaS, like, subscriptions, certain dollars per month with all these different users, or you're doing it for a customer, a client, where they're doing it for their internal team, where they're like your main client and they're paying you big ticket, but they're getting their people onboarded onto it. And then you kind of like helping them figure that out. So today, what we have to do is basically go through and add in authorization. Right now, this is basically just a platform for, basically whenever you type in the URL, you can go in here and you can use it, but we want to limit it to people that are signed in. Okay. So what I've been building since before the stream was the authorization flow. So this is the login, the log out, forgot password, that sort of thing. And to do that, we need to hook up Supabase to the platform. If you don't know, we have a couple of things that make up a Vibe Coded project. One of them is the code itself, which is what you're looking at here, which is hosted on GitHub. GitHub is just the thing that holds the code. We also have Supabase, which is going to be the back end. So any sort of data is going to be held here. And you can also have the user information here. And that is going to be what we're doing today. We're setting up basically access to the user table from the login and logout screens. Okay. A couple other things are going to be Vercel. Vercel is going to be where you actually deploy it to a specific URL. So if I just had GitHub with the code and I just had the backend with Supabase, we would not be able to run it other than on the local machine. We'd only be able to run it on the specific laptop that has the code. We need Vercel as the thing that takes the code from GitHub, takes the data from Supabase, and puts it onto a URL. In this case, it is a Vercel URL, as you see here, because we have not bought our domain yet, which is going to be www.bettingplatform.com, let's say. Okay. So the stuff is built in GitHub and in Supabase. GitHub has the code, Supabase has the data and some code. Then the bridge to take it from the bridge to take it from a local computer and or GitHub, which is essentially like the cloud version of the code, to the actual internet is going to be Vercel. Right? That's how you publish things. That's how you deploy things. Okay. And once you have all those three, those are basically the fundamental three, but a very common fourth one is going to be any sort of email platform. So this can be Resend. I believe Grid is another one. But these are going to allow you to send emails to users. And that's going to be pretty important. I used to think it was a lot more optional, but the more I build, the more I'm realizing it's actually quite fundamental. So I'd include it in the fundamental 4 that you would need. And email is basically the communication between your users and the actual platform, right? And this is going to be for things as simple as like forgot password email, a reset password link, a thank you email, and things like that. So that's pretty important. I've realized that you can build without it, but there's such limitation on Supabase that it makes it so that you're not really building a proper app. And that's just something that took me a little long to understand. So now I include it in like my fundamental 4 softwares that people get signed up to. An optional other piece of software is probably going to be Make or N8N. And this is really if you need more extended automation and you can't find a way to integrate like either an MCP or an API call into the code, or you just want a little bit more transparency, or you figure that it's like easier to understand and to build. That's kind of where I started, where I didn't use as many edge functions. I didn't use as many internal automations or internal connections to APIs and MCPs. I used basically a webhook to send out to a Make scenario, and then Make would handle all the automation on the back end. And that's actually simpler for a lot of things that are like dashboards or very simple builds. If you want full-blown applications, though, I'd probably recommend getting as much as you can within Supabase in the form of edge functions and internal code, as well as MCPs, APIs. And then if you need something like Make to be supplementary, you can do such a thing, but not always required. Okay. So once again, getting back to today, what we're going to do is open up Cursor, make sure that we connect Supabase to our Cursor, and then we can basically test out the authorization flow that I just built out. Okay. So I'm going to open up Cursor now. As you can see here, we have a couple different things. This is my .env file, which regularly I would not show you because these things here, if they were actually showcased, would be basically give you access to my Supabase, and I don't want to do that. I love you, but I don't want to give you access to my Supabase. So now that I'm going to change these from these kind of placeholders into the real thing, I'm going to hide this screen for just a second, and we're going to move into connecting this and testing out the authorization flow. So let me move this down here for a second, move this away, and I'm going to get that piece of information from here, and then we're going to move forward. So let me do this. Okay, so let me close this file. So what I did, just so you know, is I went into Supabase and I got two things. I got the URL, which is like the destination for your Supabase code, your Supabase. It's the destination for your Supabase data. And then I also got the API key, which is like the key for your Supabase data, right? So one is the address, the other is the key to get inside that specific structure, in this case, our data. And I put that inside the .env file. I'm not going to show you because, again, that's sensitive information that I should not be showing anybody, let alone randoms on the internet. Again, as much as I love you, don't love you that much. So what we have is a newly built login screen, sign in, and a sign up screen. So admins are assigned in the database after your first login, run admin promotion query if you need admin access. I don't want to have that text here. That has nothing to do with the actual user experience. Remove this text. There we go. And once that's done, that's a very quick thing, but once that's done, we're going to basically test this flow, and we're going to set up a basic profile, and I'll show you how to do that. So in Supabase, you have this authentication tab, and in here, you can add a user. You can create a new user all on your own. I'm going to use my personal email address. If you want to email me, that's fine. I don't care. My password is going to be very simple. And then I'm going to auto confirm the user because I don't want to have the requirements of sending out an email. Just go ahead and auto confirm me. Okay. So I set this up. As you can see, I have a UID. And if I go into the tables, I need to double check that it creates me in here. And I believe it will not yet. Okay. So it has not yet. We do have an admin at example. So let me test, see if this is going to go ahead and allow me to do this. Yeah, that makes sense. So what I'm doing now is creating a connection between those two tables. It may not seem intuitive, but these can be different. This authentication tab with this here and this table here with users. So sometimes what you'll do is you'll delete people from here. So you don't technically have their data or anything like that, but you want to keep them in the authentication because you want them to have like a backup. So if anyone ever has to come back in, then they have a backup. It's a little less common to do things like that. All right, there we go. Okay. So, hold on. Oh, okay. That's why. So Essentially, what there is in Supabase is one authentication table and then one or authentication section and then the actual table itself of the users. Both of these need to have the information for that person to be able to log in. Sometimes there's situations where you'll delete one but not the other. For the most part, though, you do want them to reflect. And to do this, I need to add a migration here that Cursor has set up for me, or two migrations, one that I was behind on, that is going to allow that to happen. So the way we do that is by taking this migration file from Cursor, and then we're going to copy all of it, and then we're going to go into this section, the SQL editor, put that in there, and run it. And with that, you'll be able to see that it does what we need. And if you see this message, success, no rows returned, you should have that example play out for you. You should have that successfully play out for you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete this and do it again. And there we go. Now we have this one here. The role should be, let's just test user for now, and then I'll change it. There we are. So now this is me as a user. So I have this information, this information. I don't want to have to change the email just yet. I don't want that ability. I don't want the role. I don't want to save changes. So this is a little complicated for the simplicity that we need. Let me go ahead and make some small changes to this, and then we're going to go into the admin side and we're going to make changes to that. So very quickly, here's what I'll do. I'm going to start a new chat though. We need to make some changes to the settings section for the basic user. Under the basic user, remove the ability to change the email, only have the ability to change the name. For member since and role, remove the shaded box and simply have text and icon. Remove the basic badge and make it match the font style of the date. They should also be horizontally on the same line. And then make the save changes icon just the icon. Remove the text from the button. And also remove the sign out button from that screen. Only keep it on the bottom left. Make sure the layout is clean, simple, and symmetrical as possible. So we wait here until this thing updates, and then we just make sure that it's solid the way we want it. And then we move forward. It's still doing its thing. If you click on it before it's done doing its thing, you will see basically a blank screen like we just saw. No need to panic. No need to panic. Let me combine these two again, and we should be good to go. There we go. Well, that looks pretty ugly. That looks pretty ugly. Remove the line dividers. Make the member since and role fit in the same width as the name box. Remove the subheadline, update your name. Couple basic instructions for it too. Oh man. Make sure it did it that way. There we go. Just the way it was phrased, it looked like it may have had some trouble with that. There we go, much better. Actually, I'm just going to remove it. Remove the role completely. Remove the icon on member since. Match the save icon style to the top left icon style with the black background and the green line. Move the save icon to the top right, and then remove the top left icon. So whenever you're making a lot of changes like that, it seems like not that many changes, but it's kind of a lot of different instructions in one. It's a bit risky, but you just have to be as clear as possible and kind of take it one step at a time. And if you're ever referencing anything, do that first. So you see how I referenced this icon for this icon style? Do that first before you tell it to delete it, right? Because it's going to take things in the kind of the way that you set it, and it's going to take them as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 type of thing. It's going to lay it all out. I still don't like it. Why does it just look so ugly to me? I don't know. It looks so ugly to me. All right, here's what we're going to do. Center the profile information heading. Move the save button to the bottom right. Remove the icon and place the text save changes in there. Make sure when I say bottom right, you're basically right aligning it to the name box width on the same line as member since. I think this will do it. I think this will do it. I think this will do it. You see, it's just, I don't like how this thing is like way over here. There's empty space here. This is kind of a circle when everything's kind of like rounded. So what I'm trying to do is move this center so it lines up with this, and then move this down here. And then you'll get rid of the problem of too much space on sides awkwardly, too much awkward space. Empty space is good. Awkward space is bad. There we go. I'd say that's much better. That's simple. That's got all the basics. No need for anything more, right? So let's say if I change this to Frank Gonzalez and I save changes, cool. What that should do is back over here, it should change my name, and beautiful, it just did. That's exactly what you want. That's how you test some basic functionality there, okay? And so this is as simple as it needs to be for this particular project. If there's other projects that you're building where you have membership tiers, you'd probably need to assign differences in terms of like what's a basic plan, what's a pro plan, what's an enterprise plan. But in our case, it's as simple as basic users get access because they've already paid elsewhere for this community in this case. And then the admin is going to have their version of settings where it's going to have a little bit more control. They can add users, remove users, and change users' capabilities in some cases. So what I want to do is I want to change this from user to admin, and I want to see if this can change role context. Hold on, let me see if I go here. Is it called admin or what? Let me see. I need to find out the name. Yeah, admin or user. So it's stopping me from doing it, even within here. That's interesting. I haven't run into this before. Hmm. Yeah, so essentially we were too secure. We were too secure because we weren't letting anything change it from a basic user to an admin user, including the actual dashboard itself, which on some level does make sense because if anyone gets those pieces of information in that env file and so on, it does allow them to change the kind of users and stuff like that. But for the most part, we kind of take the responsibility of protecting those things so that we can make these sorts of changes on the back end like this, you know? Okay. Okay, that's fine. This is interesting. I'm gonna make sure if we have the deployed edge function. So right here, you can see that it's saying requires deployed edge functions. An edge function is essentially a bit of code that does something with, in a lot of cases, an API or some kind of access to the database. And so I need to find out which specific edge function this is requesting, and then see if we need to build it out. Yeah. So right here, you can see that it has Supabase, functions, admin, invite user. So basically what's happening right now is that we need some functionality, which is the ability to add a user and delete a user. And we need that to be deployed within Supabase. And within Supabase, you can find that here in Edge Functions, and you can see that we do not have those specific ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say deploy, and then because this is hooked up, it's going to ask me for permission likely, and then I'm going to run that and allow that to basically create those Edge functions within my Supabase project. So here it is, basically setting things up. It's going to either set things up or ask me for permission, and then we're going to have that permission very quickly. And there we go. So a few seconds ago, you can see that it deployed these functions, and now we have those capabilities. And so now I'm just telling it to remove that headline or subheadline, and there we are. I don't know what this column is here. I want to ask about it. So now I'm going to be adding in another one of my email addresses just to make sure that this thing can add it in. And this button is basically not clickable. Oh, so remove password. So it just had a password requirement for 8 characters, but when I'm testing, I hate that. So I just remove it and see it wants to add this in. Stop that. So you have to be very good at telling, you have to be very good at saying no to a lot of things that your LLM or IDE will do. Remember, you may have heard this before, but LLMs are essentially big autocomplete tools. And autocomplete is always suggestive. Whether you have autocomplete on your phone or you have autocomplete in your emails, you may have noticed that it does a lot, right? It does a lot. Instead of saying, like, okay, sounds good, it can say things like, sounds good, looking forward to our next meeting, pleasure talking to you recently, right? Instead of just saying yes, it say, absolutely. And in addition, I've also done this other thing, this other thing, this other thing. And so no differently, you can see that it's constantly adding in these small things here. And then it is just making things like kind of annoyingly over bloated. So I'm constantly having to say things like remove this, remove that, remove this, remove this, or stop that. And you'll just kind of get used to this. It's hard to always like predict if it's going to do such a thing. So it's not always something that you can basically stop. And other times, if you're too restrictive with it, it won't build out properly. So you want to make sure you meet that middle ground of like trusting it to build what you're asking it to do, but also having enough of a strong opinion and enough of a review mentality. Like you need to be the human in the loop in this situation in order to stop it from adding in things, you know? Even this here, I didn't even realize that this here was also being added, which I'm going to take this out entirely again. And you can see that we're basically going in circles here of stuff that we need to remove. And see, it also made the assumption that I wanted it to be read only. There we go. Again, sometimes it can be just a little assumptive on things. And also, I'm using autocomplete right now, which for some people, they swear by the abilities for these other models to do things a lot clearer and simpler. And you can even argue that using something like an MD file with all these rules in there would make it simpler. For me, I've always just taken each project as kind of a one off because I kind of want to learn about these mistakes that these IDEs make. I want to learn about these mistakes and understand how to use it so that if I don't have these MD files and stuff like that, I don't have to kind of like be panicked without them. And as time has gone on, the thing is that I don't want to overbuild these MD files. I think that's like the more honest thing here. I don't want to overbuild these MD files where they become injections in the prompt that hinder me and either hinder me by basically not allowing the LLM to be as creative as it wants to be, or sometimes just not allowing the system to build because there's one rule that's very worded in a certain way and the system is taking it very literally, and so that's just like creating this workaround when something I just misworded was there. And so if I were to put something, for instance, that said no subheadlines, then every single subheadline would go away and some of them might be genuinely useful, right? Yes, I wouldn't have to deal with the subheadlines that were here and here, but the subheadlines and something like this would actually be quite useful, right? So that's my kind of difficulty with like hard rules in the MD file. I don't find it to be always the same case and always the same description to describe what I'm building. And so I'm a little bit hesitant to always put in these like hard rules for everything. So back to sending this invite here. Okay, great. So I did that. Now we're going to check back here. Okay. Well, that's no good. Is my stream still up? I don't know what's going on there. Let me see if this is. Okay, so it's just Supabase. It went down. Well, that sucks. My database just went down. So this happens. And this actually does bring me to something that I'm wanting to talk about. I don't think as a builder, you should ever really like down talk too much or talk down on too many softwares or builders or anything like that. Like even myself, right? I talk about using custom code and these drag and drop builders and stuff like that aren't always the play, but I don't necessarily like talk them down to customers or clients. They're just not the right fit for what I do. But things like Lovable, Bolt, and Software, they have their place. And even, the enterprise software that's out there currently, like Airtable, HubSpot, or whatever, whether it's a CRM or project manager or anything like that, I don't think you should spend a lot of time talking down on them because inevitably the things that you say, like they go down on occasion or they're clunky or whatever, can come up with the things that you built. And now you're defending something and you look basically like you're just flipping teams and it's not good. I don't think you should do that. So I've known someone who during sales calls can tend to do hold on. I've seen some people on sales calls basically talk down to competitors or talk down to other options. And I just never think that's a smart idea because if you're a true builder, if you're a true, you know, person in this space, you're going to see the use case for these things, especially if it's stuff like Airtable or all these things that have been existing for a while, right? Supabase goes down sometimes. Airtable goes down sometimes. You can't say that one's reliable and the other one's not. You can't say that one does a great job and one's just complete crap because it's not true. If you're building a car, like there is a time and place for a diesel engine or a gas engine or an electric engine, right? I don't think you should talk down to either one of them unless you're just kind of being in jest or if you're having like a personal opinion, that's totally fine. If you want to build a certain thing and you have a personal opinion, that's totally fine. But if you're recommending things to your clients and you want to be just the trusted person to go to in terms of cars, or in our case, the trusted person to go to in terms of product design, I think that you do a lot better to basically give everything its due and not talk down on things, not be seen as the person that has a one track mind because maybe a new tool is going to come out in the future and you're going to end up talking down about what you did for a couple of years. And so I don't think you should develop that habit of being like anything that isn't what I'm recommending to you is complete crap. Because also what happens if within the same project you realize that the customer has a certain need and maybe that tool that you were dissing and talking down on actually does serve a purpose? Now you look like a complete buffoon. And so I just don't think you should do that sort of thing because everything, as you see here, has its issues, goes down occasionally, has an error. Even Claude, even ChatGPT, they all have on occasion gone down before. And so I don't think you should be super in one camp aggressively to the point of talking down on the other. Again, you can have your opinions, you can believe in things, you can have convictions, but you want to make sure that you give everything its respect and you give everything, a fair chance if you're a true builder. I don't know what's going on with my stuff, and this is about the time that I was going to get off anyways, so I'm going to end the stream here. Don't even know if it's totally live. Looks like everything's broken, so I'm going to end the stream. Talk to you later.